Best-selling author and daughter of the Vice President of the United States, Charlotte Pence hasn't lived an ordinary life. She became part of a political family while in elementary school and traveled on the Trump-Pence campaign trail after graduating college. In her book, Where You Go, Life Lessons from My Father, Charlotte explains what it's like being part of the second family and the influence that her relationship with her father has made in her life.
Well, Charlotte, it's great to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
The title of your book, Where You Go, from the Book of Ruth,
yes,
scripturally. Tell us about the significance of that.
Yeah, you know, when I was kind of thinking of title for the book, I had a couple in mind, and this one really just stuck out to me because it does come from Ruth 1:16, and it's the story about Naomi, Ruth's mother-in-law, telling her to leave her after her husband dies, and Ruth tells her, no, you know, I'm not going to leave you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. And I think that's just kind of a theme for our family. It's something that we try to do physically, going with each other, and I went with my parents on the campaign trail, but also, you know, just being there mentally and emotionally.
Your dad first went into government when you were in grade school, I guess,
yeah,
and then became governor of the state of Indiana. And, you know, a parent doesn't make that kind of choice without it also impacting family. But he said something to you about change at that time that really stuck with you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I write about that in the book. That's actually the election night for when he became governor. You know, everything was changing and it was pretty busy. And when things died down a little bit, I remember he was going back up to bed and he said to me, you know, everything has changed, but nothing has changed. And that kind of just always stuck out to me, that was the theme going forward for us, that our circumstances had changed, but, you know, our close family relationship and our faith hadn't changed.
Well, yeah, a kid needs to hear that at a moment like that. I mean, all that pandemonium and chaos, and I'm sure it just creates in you the question, well, what's life going to be like now?
Exactly.
So talk a little bit, because now here, your dad, Vice President of the United States, you walked through that whole campaign trail process with them. What was that like?
Yeah, you know, it was incredible. I mean, I think that it was just such a blessing being able to be on the campaign trail with my parents. I was home that summer, and so I was able to go with them, and just being able to meet so many incredible people all over the country, in so many small towns and states that I hadn't been to before, was just really enlightening. And, you know, I think we got a lot closer through that entire experience.
You know, are you shielded when you're that close, and everywhere that you're going, you're talking to people who are showing up because they're for you? Are you shielded from some of the criticism? Because I often watch some of the terrible things that are said, and I think, if someone said that about my mom or my dad, I would just, you know, want to go for the throat. Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, you know, I mean, my dad has kind of always taught me, I think, just by example, how to treat people with grace. But at the same time, I do think that you're not shielded from it, because when you're on a campaign trail, especially, you're definitely living in a news cycle, because you're in the news, you're following the news. But I do think that you have that added support of so many people. And I write about in the book that I think I might have been more surprised by the results of the election if I hadn't been on the campaign trail, because I got to meet so many people that just showed such enthusiasm for this ticket that I just had never seen before in politics.
So once your dad moved into this role, what's it like for, I mean, you're in university now, but in school, like, how did any of this change your life with friends and people that you hobnob with every day? Yeah,
you know, it's funny, I write about in the book that I think it's important to have friends with people, to be friends with people that, you know, don't necessarily agree with you on everything. And I think it just humanizes one another. And so, if anything, I think it's given me an opportunity to kind of, you know, bridge that gap and talk to people about things and talk to people about issues that they might have that they see in the news. But at the same time, you know, I think you do find out who your really close friends are, and I've been really blessed to have people like that in my life.
Your dad sounds like, and I'm sure this is true of your mom as well, but just like he just carries wisdom with him. And in that is wise enough to know he needs to share that with his family. You know, some people don't do that. Internally, they ponder those things and it's there, but they don't have the wisdom to share it with other people closest to them. Your dad always told you something about going home for dinner that really was profound to me.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, growing up, my dad was home for dinner most nights.
That's astonishing.
It was, especially looking back, you know, at the schedule that I'm sure he had. But we lived right outside of DC, and so when he was in Congress, we were really close and we saw him all the time. And so, but my dad had this saying that he said, you know, do the right thing, then go home for dinner. And, you know, I think that just meant, you know, do your best, and, you know,
whatever you're doing.
Everything, yeah. No matter what you're doing in life, you know, do your best and make the decisions that you think are right. But at the end of the day, just go home and be with your family and be with people that love you.
You know, when you speak of grace, your mom is someone to me who has just seemed to be such a solid partner for your dad and just for your family as well. Talk a little bit about her, because we don't get to see her as much as we see your dad.
Yeah, no, my mom is amazing. She's really like just the rock in our family. And I write in the book a little bit about that and how, you know, I think that a lot of times the spouses are kind of the unsung heroes, whether it's military spouses or just spouses in everyday life, you know, the people that are kind of behind the scenes encouraging the person that's maybe the public face, have such an important role to play. And she just does that with such grace and strength.
How do you handle, I'm thinking of the protests we've seen recently with the Kavanaugh hearings, but how do you handle the kind of protests that have gotten so ugly when you're so close to it?
Yeah, you know, as a daughter, it's kind of difficult to see that sometimes, but what my dad has really done a great job teaching us is just that as an American, that's a good thing and we should be proud of that. My dad always says when we see protesters at events, he says, that's what freedom looks like. And he really means it, you know? I mean, we live in a country where people can speak out about their elected officials, whether it's, you know, citizens at protests or if it's people in the media. That's ultimately a good thing. And I think if you love this country, you have to kind of acknowledge that.
So what would you say is the greatest challenge of being part of a political family?
Yeah, I would probably say the challenge is just maintaining that connection and communication. I think that we've done it really well, and I think during the campaign trail, we did it well, but it's something you have to work at every day, whether you're in a political family or not. I think that just maintaining that connection is just really, really important, and it just helps you when you're going through different trials.
So you've written Where You Go, Life Lessons from My Father, just released, and a wonderful book, I want to say. But what's next for you? You're at Yale right now, or Harvard right now. Tell me what you're studying and what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm at Harvard Divinity School, so I'm studying for a master's in theological studies, and I'm kind of studying religion and literature. So I want to keep writing, but I kind of want to write about faith topics and facilitate conversations about faith with people from different faiths. And so we'll see where that leads. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, it's a great book. Your parents are very outspoken about their faith, so we'll look forward to your writings. Thank you for being with us today. Great to have you here. Thanks. The book is called Where You Go, Life Lessons from My Father. It's available in stores nationwide. Get a hold of it. Great Christmas gift, by the way. Thanks for being with us,
Thank you so much.